Earlier this year, I traveled to Boise, Idaho for the very first time, and I was pleasantly surprised by what I found. Turns out that Boise is doing an outstanding job when it comes to building new density, adding protected bike lanes, fortifying its walkable streetcar suburbs, and adaptively reusing its historic buildings. And it's doing all of these good things, while at the same time being the size of, like, a large California suburb. And you know what you can't get in a large California suburb? Urbanism-flavored ice cream. Yeah. Unlike California, Boise's population is growing steadily, but what I wanted to find out was if the city was growing smartly. What exactly has Boise done to combat decades of ongoing car-centric sprawl? How much has the city changed throughout its post-pandemic rise in popularity? And most importantly, what does Greenbelt flavored ice cream even taste like? Let's find out, shall we? But first, if you're new here, this is Fourth Place, your place to learn about US geography, urbanism, transportation, and city planning. Be sure to check out the new links I've put down in the description box if you're interested in checking out some extra urbanism content that doesn't make it into the videos here on YouTube. Touching down in the city after a beautiful flight over the Sierra Nevada mountains, I was immediately met with something I hadn't yet seen while traveling for a city visit. Snow. And really cold temperatures. This was gonna test my commitment to finding new urbanism because I'd be exploring the city entirely on foot, bike, and electric scooter. Let's start right outside my geothermal-powered hotel, smack dab in the middle of the downtown historic district. It's a fascinating area of the city because you can really see the layers of its history so clearly. About half of the buildings here are beautiful, over a century-old historic structures, and the other half are just boring, modernist buildings from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Why they ever chose to surround buildings that look like this with ones that look like this is something I'll never fully understand. Boise's downtown Main Street is anchored by a fantastic collection of early 20th century brick buildings, most of which are Victorian-era or Art Deco-era commercial structures. But at the street level here, recent revitalization efforts have prioritized walkability, bikeability, outdoor dining, and public art, with the city trying to claw back a sense of culture and artistry that was taken away from it during the modernist years. Things are especially great here on the 8th Street Promenade, where the city has turned this previously auto-centric road into a pedestrian and cycling-only stretch full of live music, restaurants, and small businesses. One of my favorite things about this area are actually the alleyways, where the city has designated these old brick walls as a space for open-air, public use, multi-artist mural galleries. I love what the city has done here. Instead of risking jail time for spraying small business fronts and abandoned commercial buildings, artists are encouraged to create here instead. A huge win for the city, and also for the arts culture downtown too. The works are really cool to see in person, and can change at any point in time. What's even better here is that the artists have respected the historic preservation of some of the wall's oldest works of art. Even I have to admit how cool these old restored car advertisements look. There's just something about a lost form of art that's always intriguing to me. I've never been to Detroit, but this is what I imagine much of urban core Detroit looks like. These charming old separated blocks of a Victorian-era and Art Deco transit-oriented past that's had its surroundings slowly picked off, one by one, and replaced with parking lots, gas stations, or worse yet, a bland modernist city hall complex. One of the only saving graces here seems to be all of this great new bike infrastructure that was added within the last 5 years. Boise is punching well above its weight in that regard. I also found a lot of this in the urban core too, which was really cool to see, especially after spotting a lot of it on my recent trip to Austin, Texas. Gas station adaptive reuse. I feel like we'll be seeing more of this across cities as the years roll on. Part of me loves redevelopment like this because it's adaptive reuse and creative, but the other part of me knows that these lots would probably be better served for new housing. Maybe we can meet in the middle and turn these into boarding islands or transit shelters, though that almost seems too creative and impractical for modern city planning. I think it's a pretty cool idea though. Boise also used to have a Chinatown and a warehouse district located by the railroads down here by Grove, Broad, and Myrtle Streets. Most of the infrastructure here has been destroyed and redeveloped into faux historic blocks, now housing food halls, Five Guys, and a P.F. Chang's, but some of the original structures have survived, like the Davis Warehouse building, built in 1910 as a warehouse for the Shaw Lumber Company, and then later the Idaho Fish and Poultry Company. This place is now being used as office space and even a concert venue. And at the same time, buildings like the Idaho Candy Company factory, built in 1909, have been doing the same thing for over 100 years. And I also liked finding some hidden gems like coffee shops, vintage stores, and other small businesses making use of the real old warehouse buildings too. In so many places, the downtown historic district is showing us what good can come of adaptive reuse. Lumber and seafood warehouses no longer need to be in the center of our downtowns or next to a non-existent railroad. So instead of destroying these beautiful Victorian and Art Deco buildings, cities can reuse them, giving birth to a brand new use, or multiple uses. But the centerpiece of this area's post-war redevelopment has to be the Boise Grove Plaza, built back in 1986. It's a lot like other corporate plazas of the era, largely dead, drab, and boring most of the time. That is, except for this underground hockey rink they built here in the late 90s, which is actually a great place to catch the minor league Idaho Steelheads. Easily the best thing to come out of this mostly obtrusive modernist monstrosity. Does anyone else live for watching the local sports teams on their city visits? Let me know down in the comment section below. Continuing just south of downtown, I started seeing a lot more new density. This is the Central Edition. Maybe the most important part of Boise's shift towards new urbanism in the downtown core. It's a new district that the city has designated as its first LIV district. That's spelled L-I-V and stands for lasting, innovative, and vibrant. Kinda gimmicky, but what it's culminated in is the construction of green infrastructure, LEED certified buildings, and the use of geothermal energy systems, contributing to a reduced carbon footprint. This is really good, and actually a surprising amount of Boise's buildings had these geothermal energy logos on them too. Turns out that Boise has used geothermal heat since at least the 1890s for heating buildings, melting snow from sidewalks, and even warming recreational pools. Cool stuff. The Central Edition Master Plan, drafted back in 2015, prioritizes a new design of walkability and mixed-use development. For some reason, I had this preconceived notion that it would be really hard to walk and bike around the city. But neighborhoods like this prove that's just not the case. As I walked west through downtown, I took notice of just how clean and safe the city felt. From the people, to the businesses, to the sidewalks, everything was really nice, and people clearly cared about their city. Eventually, at around 14th Street, I stumbled into one of the city's most curious ongoing projects. This is the Linen District, or at least it will be. In 2010, the city created yet another master plan here in an effort to preserve this area's unique historic character. The follow-through has been mostly great. The city has added bike lanes and incentivized small business growth, as well as spearheaded the largest housing infill and redevelopment progress happening in the urban core today. I also found it funny that the city was able to salvage many of these honestly beautiful neon signs from the auto-centric businesses that once lived here. Urban renewal needed to take place, but the city was just too sentimental. Easily the best things to come out of those decades. As of right now, the city is kind of struggling to fill in a lot of the old buildings here in the Linen District, especially when it comes to retail and commercial development. My thought is that once all of this density is done and people begin to populate the area, I think that'll change pretty quickly. With all of this great new urbanism, I think in a few years' time, the Linen District will be as great as any other up-and-coming American arts district. Really exciting stuff here. But wandering further from downtown, passing furniture warehouses and budget hotels, this is exactly where I expected to run into unabashed car centricity and difficulty finding safe passage on foot and on my various Lime scooters. But I actually found the opposite. In probably a shock to everybody watching, Boise has continued the incredible work of adding protected bike lanes, transit, and pedestrian space even here, miles away from the city center. They've removed entire lanes of car traffic and replaced them with boarding islands, bike lanes, and brand new mixed-use density. Boise is doing things cities way bigger and with way more money and progressive politics have been too stubborn to do for so long. Stuff like this is why I was loving this city visit so much up to this point, and what the city had next in store for me was somehow even better. As the sun began to set, I realized I only had less than 24 hours left here, and that I couldn't waste another second. But everything in Boise was just so interesting. Soon enough, I found myself walking underneath Interstate 184, taking the sidewalk as far as it could go until I wandered into a place that can only really be described as a winter wonderland. This is Esther Simplot Park. Opened in 2016, this place covers about 55 acres of Idaho land and features several interconnected ponds, waterways, grassy areas, bridges, and best of all, the Boise River Greenbelt. It's a modern take on an urban core green space, and make no mistake, we're still well within Boise's urban core here. It's a great place to spend time in, even on a freezing winter afternoon. But in the summer, the various lakes and lagoons here are actually safe to swim in, which I can imagine is a great way to spend a day in a warmer time of year. The city even goes as far as providing public use life vests for the little ones, and even a designated area to surf along the Boise River. Yeah, you heard that right. You can surf here in the summer. You know, because we're in the middle of Idaho. But of course, my favorite part of the park was the Boise River Greenbelt, which connects all of the parks and green spaces along the Boise River in the urban core. From here, you can take the Greenbelt south to the university area and the museum district, north to even more nature and eventually even into suburban sprawl. Or you can do what I did and just take it a few feet across the bridge into Boise's brand new waterfront district. This area here along the Greenbelt is experiencing a ton of new, dense housing development conducive to car-free life. It's home to some scattered modern townhomes, small condo buildings, apartments, and other mixed-use projects clearly aimed at people wanting to be urban but outdoorsy. Here you're seeing sleek new architecture with a lot of flat roofs, big windows, balconies, and minimalist landscaping. It's a very contemporary Pacific Northwest vibe on a smaller, more approachable scale than Portland and Seattle's new urbanist developments. What I didn't realize is that by crossing over the Boise River, I wasn't actually in Boise anymore. I was in a place called Garden City, an entirely separate municipality surrounded by Boise on all sides. With a population of only 12,000 people, Garden City has been looking to expand through infill and urban renewal, and part of that means redeveloping massive swaths of auto-centric land use into dense, transit and greenbelt-oriented housing. This little slice of Boise, or Garden City, or whatever, is just great, and even when nobody's out willing to brave the frigid temperatures, you can tell that this is a very communal place. Now, just inland from the waterfront district, Garden City has established the Live, Work, Create district. A new project that feels like a creative, small-scale urban village that's just now really starting to find its shape. You're seeing a lot of adaptive reuse. Old warehouses, garages, industrial sheds, all of it, converted into art studios, breweries, coffee shops, and maker spaces. While all of this is great, the Boise metro area desperately needs more housing. It's started to build some of that, mostly in the form of low-rise, often live-work style townhomes and little clusters of new mixed-use density here and there. There's still so much empty space just ripe for infill, and once the city has built enough of it, I think it'd be wise to do a rebrand. The Waterfront District and the Live, Work, Play District are a little too uncreative sounding for an arts district like this. How about calling it something cool like Surf Town or the Greenbelt District? I mean, the last things I expected to see while walking around the snow-covered urban core was a surf shop and a Greenbelt Market Cafe, so I think a new name should reflect that uniqueness. It'll be interesting to see what this place will look like in like 20 years' time. Can they hold on to most of the warehouse adaptive reuse while redeveloping the land around it into a proper mixed-use neighborhood? Only time will tell, but I just hope they can add some sidewalks here sooner rather than later. The next day started with a long and uphill trek towards South Boise. moving through snowfall and sub-20-degree temperatures down Capitol Avenue, something unexpected piqued my interest far off in the distance. Turns out, what I was seeing was the building that put Boise on the map. This is Boise Depot, built all the way back in 1925 by none other than the Union Pacific Railroad. During its golden era from the 1920s through the 1940s, the depot thrived as a bustling gateway to the Pacific Northwest, a place where travelers experienced elegant waiting rooms with ornate ceilings, iron chandeliers, and polished oak benches. In fact, it looked a lot like my local LA Union Station. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on that video when it comes out in 2 weeks. Like much of American passenger rail, Boise Depot's prominence faded after World War II as car ownership surged and air travel expanded. Train service dwindled until the 70s, when Union Pacific ended passenger operations entirely. Even though Amtrak revived service briefly with its Pioneer route between 1977 and 1997, the train station never regained its former vitality. Not even close. The end of the Pioneer marked the end of passenger rail travel in Boise and nearly the entire state of Idaho. In 1996, the city acquired the space and repurposed it into a museum. You're able to tour what's left of the Boise Depot for a few hours on Sundays and Mondays on the inside, but any other day you're free to explore the outside and check out some really cool old train infrastructure. Walking back through downtown one final time, an hour's trek from the train station I was just visiting, I arrived at one of Boise's oldest neighborhoods. Now, this is not the streetcar suburb of Hyde Park, Austin, Texas. Nor is it the streetcar suburb of Hyde Park, Tampa, Florida. Nor the streetcar suburb of Hyde Park, Kansas City, Missouri. No, this is the streetcar suburb of Hyde Park, Boise, Idaho. And it's frickin' awesome. Why? Well, let's just start here on Harrison Boulevard. In the late 1800s, it was nothing but a dusty, vacant stretch of land with few houses, trees, or much of anything. But that began to change in 1910 when developers planted 3,000 elm and maple trees throughout Hyde Park's numbered streets, including Harrison Boulevard, which at the time was known as 17th Street. Then, in 1916, the boulevard added its iconic landscaped median with streetlights to go along with a nearby streetcar stop. All of this new development drew many of the city's most wealthy residents to build homes here, and boy did they build. Victorian, Queen Anne, Colonial Revival, they built it all, and big. Walking down Harrison Boulevard is a walk through 100-year-old mansions of railroad tycoons, politicians, and wealthy businessmen. They're all very impressive for sure, but they also signaled the rise of a more exclusive, auto-centric social fabric of the time. One where now, not many can afford the neighborhood, and you need to wave bright orange flags to let drivers know you'd like to cross the street safely. Still, you just can't help to admire the artistry here. Like I said, there's nothing like a lost art form. The neighborhood's main commercial streetcar corridor definitely didn't disappoint though. Over here along 13th Street, you can find old streetcar iconography on lampposts surrounded by the most quaint and old business fronts you've ever seen. It's such a charming, small neighborhood with a very local feel. And you just have to love an urban core neighborhood that's proud of its transit-oriented mom-and-pop shop history. From adaptive reuse to historic preservation to new neighborhood density, Hyde Park has done a lot of things right since its founding in the late 1800s. It's certainly Boise's most colorful neighborhood, and looking at the home prices here, also its most desirable one. Continuing down 13th Street, admiring the old streetcar urban fabric as it transitioned back from commercial to residential, there was just one final stop I had to make in the city. I didn't know it at the time, but there was a park at the end of this neighborhood, Camels Park. It's where I found this grumpy snowman, and also this foothill with a staircase seemingly stretching up to heaven. So I climbed the steep slope, step after step, and the payoff at the top was just the perfect way to end my trip to this great city. Getting to enjoy these views is as American as it gets. I really can't tell you just how much I enjoyed my time here in Boise. It's such a cool city with so much going for it. Boise has the art scene, the history, the old urban fabric. They just can't seem to build back the rail yet. For now, anyways. See, Boise is the kind of place to name its academic buildings after a supermarket chain. It's the kind of place where you can surf waves 3,000 feet above sea level. The kind of place to actually use its tax dollars for the benefit of pedestrians and cyclists all year round. And yeah, it's a place where even the ice cream and the hotel lobbies embrace car-free living. And I appreciate that. Don't let anybody try to scare you off from checking this great American city out. It really is one of a kind, and it's becoming more livable with each and every passing day. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed my 4th installment of this untitled city visit series, and if you'd like to see more of these. And if you haven't noticed, I've been teasing my next visits at the end of these videos, but this time I really have no idea where I'll be going next. No, really, I have no idea whatsoever. I really do like the Pacific Northwest, so hopefully my next city visit isn't too far from Boise. But I guess we'll see. Anyway, I'll see you next week from 4th place.